Hey everybody, welcome back to Inner Blocks Radio. We're jumping right in here. We're going to record this one. Hopefully we have something to talk about. Hopefully we can get something really going here. Stacie D and I are really excited to be back. It's been a whole week since we've been here, and it is time to, hey, hey, hey. That's exciting. That's a warm welcome, am I right?
That's some serious love.
Well, first she puts a whole gif of me working and dropping the blocks on my face, and then that makes up for it, so.
That's true. It does make it's like a kiss to the boo boo.
It is like, oh, kissing boo boos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's so nice.
Yes. So we are jumping right in here. We have some information, some talking points, and then we would like some crowd participation. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to start with just the basics. It looks like we might know pretty much everyone here, but we like that. And this, see, if we can get this to actually load up on YouTube, like if one of us can actually edit this and get it up on YouTube, that'd be awesome. But you can't, it doesn't show the text really, you know?
It doesn't?
Not really.
Not as smooth as.
Yes, not as, it's not really like this. You can't really see it like this.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So,
I hear you. I hear you when I see you.
hey, Janie, your mic's on. How are you? And so, okay, so Interblocks, who we are, Interblocks. We were talking about this, and one thing that it's continuing, like, it's kind of front of mind awareness for us because we've been watching all the stuff from Steam Fest and talking about communities and what's going on. So I think it's really important that we talk about, who we are and what we're about. We have people that come to Interblocks and they're still, after all this time, they're still like, well, I'm not really sure what Interblocks is. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, well, what the heck else words can we use? You know what I mean? It's like we describe it, we talk about it, we have a whole radio show about it, we try to make posts about it, I make vlogs about it. I'm not sure what words can come out of my mouth that's going to make more people understand it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do I know I'm in the same boat.
So now we're kind of getting in that position. Yeah, and so that's what we're doing. We are building this from, it's a grassroots. It is a floor level, build it up from the bottom. Exciting business community. It's a cool. There's a lot happening here, and we were looking at a lot of these communities that are around. And when you think about inner blocks, it's not so much. It's a niche. Do you think it's a niche?
It's more like a grab all for all the niches because we recognize that each niche is a block.
We love the niches.
Geez. That just totally distracted me because
You're like,
I just keep saying like the real thing in my head. I'm like, no, don't say it out loud, right? That's what you do. That's the shenanigans I have to work with.
That is shenanigans. So
no, but I think it's not again, it's a niche that catches everything, or we catch all the niches.
Yeah, and so that's what's funny is we saw a lot of communities, and there are a lot of communities that might be really focused on creativity, on art, on music, on homesteading, on crafts, on hobbies. There are, let's say, I'm going to call them smaller niches, not smaller in members. I mean, let's say a tighter,
concentrated,
more concentrated niche for the different content out there. And where Interblocks comes in, Interblocks is, I don't know, it's not really a niche. If you can say having a personal experience is a niche, then yes, we're the nichiest.
We're the nichiest.
Is it a thing? We're going to be the nichiest.
We
are
stitch the niches.
I'm not sure where you're going with that. You're going to scare off our friends.
I was thinking we can pull them all together.
Yeah, so that's it. To bring, you said stitch in the niches?
Yeah.
I get it. I was thinking niches and stitches.
Well, that's where it started. I'm like, that doesn't.
Snitches and stitches.
Snitches get stitches, and then
geez.
it just
well,
really
Snook
got.
Made me do it,
I know.
So. Yes.
Communities.
So Stacie's saying there, community, and like we try to talk about the community as a whole because we really put the emphasis on the whole person. This isn't just about one piece of a person, but providing an opportunity for the person to be themselves as a whole. And so Interblocks is a bigger picture because it is going towards a front end with an SMT, and the focus there is going to be firsthand experiential content. It's not going to be limited to writing or music or art or homesteading. It's going to be limited only by personal experience. So it's not going to be just throw out any kind of a post in there about any kind of thing. It's going to be, personal experience. Now, even memes. I love memes. I read memes every day, right?
You do.
But memes are not something that you're going to find on interblocks.com.
Unless you're using it to describe your experience.
Or unless you're using it to describe your experience, or unless you made a meme of yourself and your experience. But just in general, it's yes.
Yes.
And an all-encompassing community. And so that is what we're really trying to, yeah, you would say you log, but let's say you log in all aspects. It is someone who is working out their passion, their niches.
Oh, I like that. That's cute.
Hey, I like that.
We hadn't decided. I mean, we throw around
We throw around different
ideas, but yeah, I like that.
of tokens.
Oh, and then sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, jump in. There's stop apologizing.
That's been a thing here around our joint recently. Anyway, I think it's Victor or Victor, I think. Earlier he asked if we had a mission statement, and we do have a who we are part of our Discord to give people a general idea, but I don't know if that's necessarily not exactly a mission statement, but it does give people a good idea. But maybe just coming out and having a mission statement would be a good.
Yeah, and to have a mission statement. And one thing that we've been kind of waiting on is putting pieces together. When you're putting together a project, and I don't know how many people are putting on a bigger project that has a lot of moving pieces, it's kind of like shuffling a deck of cards. And so you end up getting all of these little things, but they need to fall in a certain order. And if you get things all out of order, then the whole thing gets kind of whopper-jawed, and you don't really know what's going on, and you confuse more people. So here's what's going on. So here, I'm gonna hold on. We're getting way up into this. I've got some copying and pasting to do.
Oh, this is your favorite part. He's getting better and better, guys.
I'm trying. So, we were talking about these communities, and before we get too far away, we were talking about communities and people. Yeah, and so we were talking about these communities and these projects and these things that are going on where this is grassroots. It's like Interblocks is not a faceless idea. Interblocks is not a faceless organization. Interblocks is something much bigger. It's something that we're very passionate about because if this isn't about niches, this isn't about awesome content. This isn't about those things. It's about the people, and that's what's really awesome. And we've seen how Steem has changed people's lives around the world. So if we replicate that sort of a success in a token through a front end that's focused on people living their lives, then you're really putting that together. How can we get people living their lives, then kind of documenting their lives, and then being rewarded? How can we create that experience? How can we create this multifaceted experience? And then how can we create use cases for this? So one thing we think is really important, the reason we started putting out Freedom Point and Freedom to Write here is so that people can remember who we are, so that we're not getting lost in the shuffle, and so that while things are coming out, while things are developing, that people will think about us. They might see Freedom Point somewhere and be able to recognize, hey, Freedom Point is Interblocks. Hey, Freedom to Write is Interblocks. That's, to start to connect some dots, because if people think that we're Freedom Point and Freedom to Write, or they see us on here as Stacie D and the Yeti, and if people start to see that, then maybe they won't have that connection. Yep.
Did you just draw that? Like just now?
Yep, that's us, Interblocks.
I think we should save that.
Yes.
I'm going to totally put that in a post.
You are Interblocks.
Can you go ahead and
it'll be right here. Can we get it in a minute?
I suppose.
What the heck? You're like, no, stop everything you're doing.
Stop the radio show now.
Save the image that Snook put out there. So excuse me.
He's got a little tickle on his throat, guys. Just be patient with us.
Oh man.
Yeah,
perhaps
personal
this
space.
Is my end. It shall be a glorious one. So, right? Because oh man, he went out during a radio show.
And we come up with a better story.
Thank you. So anyway, with the communities and everything that's going, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But we are all about information. We like bringing people's attention to what is going on here. And one thing that we have been talking about, we don't actually have people, like there's nothing mandatory about Interblocks. There's nothing like you come there and you just be there. There's nothing mandatory. And so the project, we've seen some notes. I think it was Janie we were talking about, is that Powerhouse Creatives and some other ones that say, hey, listen, you're going to jump in here, you're going to delegate a little bit.
No, you don't have to delegate to Power
It's not
Creatives.
who was it that we were talking about? We just talked to them the other day, and they were like, yes, to be up in here. She says no. It's not Powerhouse Creatives.
No.
It must be somebody else I was talking to. But oh, that's my favorite feature.
Wait, is it natural medicine?
Is it natural medicine? No. Janie is amazing. Powerhouse Creatives is amazing.
Yes.
I'm walking it all back. I dropped the wrong name. So, but we dropped this out here as we're talking about what's going on, because all of this is voluntary. This is people that are delegating voluntarily to Interblocks with no promise of an ROI. There's no return on investment.
There's no
just supporting people.
Oh, if you delegate, you'll definitely get an upvote.
And I have noticed there are some large community players that seem to be getting even bigger, and they're offering returns and ROI. So there's a lot of delegating happening. And so people can go out. If people are trying to get returns, there's definitely ways to get returns, especially now in let's call it the curation game. There's a lot of people that's curating. You know what I mean? There's a lot of big accounts, and there's a lot of things that you could do with your delegation to get some return. But if people just want to support an amazing project, that's what's happening here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So there are those avenues to take.
Yes. And we would like to say, I'm going to post this. Look, copy and paste. Can't walk and chew gum. Yeah, I can't copy and paste and speak at the same time. So,
right. Concentration.
I'm just throwing out things I've jotted. So 100 Interblocks with a team of curators has manually curated 152 posts in the last 7 days. That's averaging, it's just shy of 22 posts a day. I rounded up. It was like 21.7, and it's.
How do you get a 0.7?
Yep. So anyway, I just used the calculator, and the calculator gave me the 0.7.
Fair enough.
Whatever the math was. Anyway, hey, 152 posts for the last 7 days, and then 22 posts curated a day. Look. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the hive quit one of the posts.
Just made it halfway through.
Yeah, he's like, no. So we want to keep this rolling so that people can see what we're doing. I mean, we don't have large reports. We don't have metrics that like, oh, hey, look at the spreadsheet, or we're not putting out posts about it. We're not, like I was watching somebody that curated one of my posts. I went and looked at them on Steam World, and I was only one of like 100 that they had curated that day.
Oh my.
Right, but you're talking about they were such a large account, and they were only doing it at 10% or lower or something, but they just schmammered so many accounts because they were just spreading that love on like peanut butter. You know what I mean? They were just spreading it everywhere.
Oh, I love that. I love that visual.
You can just imagine they're just spreading that love. Everyone stop. There's a hush to read Janie's stuff.
Yes. I love that.
Yes. Okay, so that took us all a minute there. There was a brief pause.
But we read it in exactly like the same time because we both spoke. Right.
Yeah. So that's what we were showing here. And the idea with Interblocks, like we said, the firsthand experiential content, and anybody can check that out. We love using Steam World. While you're there, you can delegate, but you can go right there and see everything. Like you can set the settings out. People can see exactly what's being curated. Sometimes there's questions, and people are like, "Hey, this looks sketchy," and we go back and revisit it. So if people have an issue, we do go back and address it. We have taken an upvote away and take the comment away. So we have made those changes when it didn't fit the guidelines of what we're asking of the curators. So with that, we asked them a couple things. Please don't curate yourself because that's distasteful, right?
Yeah.
And then don't curate Freedom Point and Freedom to Write. So don't curate us.
I mean, as amazing as our posts are,
Oh, jeez.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Deep in here. That's my feet are up. So, but with you, we asked them to not upvote themselves or upvote us because we think that's distasteful, because we're not looking to make those kind of gains. This isn't exploiting an opportunity. This isn't getting ours and getting out kind of thing. This is about the people. So how can we organize the people, and how can we keep that flowing?
Absolutely. You know what's so funny about Baltic Badger's thing right there is that, like, I think this last week, that was the Interblocks Twitter post. That was like the
Nice.
encouraging
And
thing.
how you
That's
make
so
people feel.
yeah.
Well, I
That's
like
so
that.
funny. So I don't know if he sees us on Twitter, but yeah. Yeah, so on Twitter, I know I'm probably jumping a little ahead here, but we have a Twitter account and we can plop that up there.
Crap, I don't have it. We can.
And so every day I try to put out a positive, encouraging message to get the day started. Of course, by the time I get up, half the world's already like in it. But maybe you need a positive, something uplifting when you're like just in the throes of your day as well. Yeah, Twitter is something new for us, just in general. So
That's great. Well, I think she's being a little humble here, but she's doing an amazing job. So Interblocks on Twitter has been amazing. Just bringing people a little something positive to read, to get them into their day, to get them through their day, to just bring people together, bring awareness to the whole thing. And she's been doing that single-handedly.
thank
So
you.
she usually has all of that done. Even by the time I'm up and I'm moving in the morning, she's trying to inspire the planet.
Well, I would really love to have a hand in inspiring the planet. I think the planet could use a little inspiration.
a little inspiring, right?
Aw, thank you.
So that's one aspect of it. There's a lot of things happening with social media and posts in general, right? You want to tell them what this is happening here?
Yes. So we're kind of excited. We are in the process of creating, I say we really heavily, in the process of creating a really cool MP4 with our logo so that we can have like a really cool little video clip of our logo with any videos that we make for Interblocks, and then maybe we can make it into a GIF. And we're really excited about that. So here recently, I don't know, for those of you who knew who Tim Fox is, he introduced us to a program called Blender 2.8. 2.8?
Blender 2.8.
And it's stinking amazing. And so it's how to animate.
I'm gonna throw this out here.
So it's pretty complicated right at first, pretty intimidating for those who aren't into animation. But we were really excited because our oldest decided to just dive head first, and he totally made this for Freedom Point. So he's in the process of making one for Interblocks right now.
So you can imagine, yeah, our eldest offspring,
Yes.
right? He said he wanted to learn stuff, so he's doing little things. I told him something that I would like, and see, you guys can't really see this here. Now, I know that everybody here watches my vlogs daily, right? They just jump in. They're like a huge Freedom Point. We know
Oh, yeah. Huge fans.
So it actually has sound. This is just the footer that I made for my posts that are not videos, but all of this has sound. Yeah, right? Like, dang it.
Who's that?
But if you guys ever look at one of my videos, I'll just encourage you because I can't get it here. But if you ever look at one of my videos, any of them, YouTube, anywhere, this is my like little 7-second intro, and it actually has sound effects and like when the Freedom Point is when the letters are banging into place, it's actually metal, and it sounds like metal tinking and like hammering, and so it's a pretty in-depth thing. But I'm showing you that because that's pretty like an awesome new thing to bring to Interblocks because now that we have a logo, do you guys know? Does everybody know Katie Savage? Yeah. So Katie Savage made our custom Interblocks logos, redid our emblem, redid everything for us. So now we're using, it's the Chelsea font and using all these things. So he had to be very particular about how he's making the graphic on Blender, and he's using the same stuff to make it the same thing. I requested baby poop. So I said, buddy, can you go ahead and make this look like crap? Right? I just said, can you make this just look so uncomfortable and awkward that it's going to start the whole vlog off just like people are going to be like, dang it. Oh, wait. And then they're going to get inspired. It's kind of like take them down and bring them back up. You know what I mean? We're just going to like make whoa, and then inspire them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's funny.
I love it. So anyway, to go with that.
Yeah, so to go with that, we are looking to do more Interblocks posts with with everything, we want to start trying to build up more of our organic SP. And the way you do that is by posting, turns out. Shocker. So I want to try to really start coming out with more, again, just more posts. So maybe having something where we pick somebody that's used the Interblocks tag and we really like their post and kind of like highlight that user and, bring some love their way, giving more regular, updates or just like how our delegations are going, that kind of thing. Just making more weekly posts to be able to just bring more to the people. That's the idea.
For sure. It's nice to bring attention to Interblocks. It's hard. It's a place out there. I mean, it's a place that you have a lot of support. There's a lot of small accounts, the redfish, the minnows, the dolphins, then you got the orcas and the whales. There's a lot of support going around all over the place. And we're not fishing for whales. We're not fishing for orcas. Oh, it's okay. Yep. So we're not just fishing for that, but you know what? Wouldn't it be awesome if they noticed? Like Interblocks is a thing. And so with this communities, I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to bring people on board, but hey, we'll get there in just a minute.
Just
So
a minute.
did we read something that Steem It now has 8 tags?
Yeah, so Britt and Josie told me yesterday that Steem It now is allowing you to use 8 tags, and then I used that today for the radio show post and it worked. So really, it's so crazy just now hearing about it. Yeah, right? 8.
Is it for all the token tags?
Probably.
Just so people can use one tag for their actual content and use the other 7 to try to get tokens?
Yes.
I can see that.
I know sometimes I feel like I have a hard time coming up with 5 as well. Yeah, and so they can be less sucky too. Yeah.
So less sucky. Stop sucking, Steem It.
Yeah.
All tag.
Just and everything.
Just tag spam.
I think it's hard because I start tagging communities, like you drop that in again, Powerhouse Creatives, and then the Alliance and like whatever else, and obviously Interblocks, and then it just yes.
Made me do it.
I really should use that more often, just in general. So we have a couple more days left for the Natural Medicine / Interblocks Challenge. If people have not done this yet, it's a really great way to potentially earn some steam. Do you have the link by chance?
I'm working on the link.
You're working on the link. So this is a really cool thing. We're getting more involved with other communities and coming together to make challenges and contests so that we get more attention and more eyes on what we're doing. And so the idea with this one is so funny. I keep forgetting the details of it, but it just makes so much sense. It's like the natural, the ways that you've incorporated medicine or some sort of medicine-like attribute to your life that has affected your blocks and how your life in general. So it could be like something that you've incorporated and you've used and then gotten rid of. It could be that it's been life-changing and this is the path that you're on now. And I've read so many amazing posts that have been so heartfelt and just so real, and I've been really not surprised. I shouldn't be surprised, but sometimes you do get surprised by the great things that people the things that they bring up.
Are you sure this one?
You can also go to my page where I've re-steamed it.
All right.
We forgot to get a link. I apologize, guys. But it's really cool. So if you're not interested, I do recommend just reading the posts themselves and being inspired, because I really didn't know a lot of things about these people before this, or just different ways of going through life, I guess. Everybody lives such different lives. Their blocks are so amazing. And I think I've really underestimated as well what people's blocks were. And I think just, the more people do contests and challenges and things, for Interblocks and, with other communities, with Interblocks, I've been really inspired.
Yeah, man. I love the collaborations, the affiliations, coming together with other communities. That's what we were talking about is from the very beginning, the mindset behind Interblocks is not to push out or replace. It is not to erase everyone's hard work, and it's like, oh, it's not just like the newest and the bestest. It's not just the shiniest thing. It's not the next new toy. It's not like that. It's not like moving on from one to the other. It's about bringing that together. And then the ultimate way to bring eyes to people's content is through that, like to bring that exposure, to bring people together. That's the idea of the front end. And then to market it, to advertise it, to bring those eyes to it. And that's what we're doing together, because so if you're working microdosing, I made a whole post about microdosing life.
Yes, you sure did.
So, but talking about bringing people together, and I think that that's something that we can really do more of, because you're seeing like groups that come together, but you know what? You still have, even though this is a digital platform, you still have those times when you really feel like you connect with other people.
Yes.
And then you also have those times when you're like, man, these people are just here for the money. Like, there's no connection.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel it's funny because I feel like I've made some real friendships with a lot of people via Steem It. Real solid friendships, that if we lived closer, I would definitely hang out with those people all the time.
Right, right. So I think it's I don't know, man. There's just so much amazing happening here, and bringing more people together. I think that the more people you have, the more posts, then the more you do separate the wheat and the chaff. That you do see the people that are going to be here, that stick around, they're investing in a platform, investing in an idea, and then you got the people that are just here to like make $1, maybe $2, or the hive would say just 10 cents. You just need to make 10 cents. That's your profit, your 50 cents, your $1, and then but these people then they're gone. So you never really know. And I think we were talking about that last week, how people like they're the sleepers you would never expect. The people that don't say anything, those are like your hardcore community members.
Yeah.
And then the people that are just all in are the ones that you usually lose.
Yeah, because they have a lot of zeal and they lose the oomph and then they're out. Well, maybe it's also that they give so much to one thing in short quantities. It's just their personalities, So they give a lot to that for as long as they can, and then they're out and they're on to the next thing.
Right. I can identify with that. Like my personality is go on next thing. What do we do in building the project? That's poor Jason Boo. Can you imagine what his message box looks like?
I can.
It's just one message after another. I have ideas. I'm talking in constant communication, and that's what I do because I push an idea, and it's like, hey, if nothing's happening, then I'm gonna have to like start making custom knives or something.
Which is
What is exactly what I'm doing. So, for anybody that's interested in that front, things are going great. I just ordered some 303 stainless to use for bolsters and pins, if you know what that is. And then I've got some knife scales that are in a wood hardener right now. So, be custom knives in no time. So, with that, I keep saying with that. It's not really with that. That's just the segue I'm going to use. But shh, don't tell them that.
okay.
So,
It's like your favorite page break.
my favorite page break. So we were talking about this community. Now, for the last half of this show, we'd like to open this up because this isn't just Interblocks has never been just Stacie D and I creating and giving people something to use. It has been building up with people from the very beginning, getting people's ideas, making it something that other people want, because we like to feel like people will feel that ownership, the ownership of the idea, the ownership of like the culture, the
Yeah.
ownership of how something turns out, but to give that to the people. So, we want to talk about the communities that's coming. Like I was watching Exile's video, and I was watching him pick through the beta for the Steam It communities and how that all works. And I think that I have a pretty good understanding. I watched him; he was able to have the community, and then he was making a post without a tag, and it went directly just to the community. Or you can put it over like a little toggle and make it go out to your blog, which goes out to like the broader people, the broader scope, and then you use multiple tags for that. So I'm starting to see that separation in there, and pretty much it looks like the community function is going to be um, more about isolating and bringing the similar content into that community. So in that community, like say Interblocks was a community there, then you would start to see posts that are put there in that community.
Hmm.
And so the thing that I was noticing is that in that community you did not use a tag. So it looked like it was posting directly just to that community,
Okay.
right? But it didn't seem like it was going out of that community. So if you had the toggle on and it was going out to your broader blog, then it was like it was going out to the broader community. So it's almost like you put it in one place and certain people see it. You put it in another, then other people will see it. So it's like two separate places.
Really?
So it was like, okay, you want to make a post so you can post it inside the community, and there in that community you could also be rewarded in the SMT, right? So it can isolate. They're almost like miniature front ends inside of steemit.com. Can you imagine? So you
Yeah.
bring people over to make their post. Now, the way I kind of saw it was, if you're not cross posting, will the blockchain prevent you from multiple posts? So if you made a post under Interblocks and if it all like five other communities, so instead of just doing the toggle and throwing it out here under the tags on steemit.com, but you put it in the five communities as an individual post, but they're all the same, will that be seen as flagging, right? Because you want to put your content into the community so people can see it, and then that'll also give you an opportunity to gain on those tokens, right?
Yeah.
Versus putting like 8 tags on it where it'll send you out. See, I don't know if the tags are going to cross post back over to the communities, and we're still learning about this. So this idea is, does anyone here have any ideas or seen anything about communities? And do you think that Interblocks should go the direction of developing a community while we're pushing towards a front end?
That
So
is the question.
that's the question.
Well, I think you have to.
Hello, who is this? I'm sorry. Welcome to the radio show.
Hi, this is Snow. I think you have to.
What do you mean?
Well, I think the inner blocks itself has to set itself up as a community because you're going to have your own front end, and technically that's going to be everybody. Like I'm assuming Jane, sorry, Cr- Powerhouse Creative is going to have a community. A lot of people are waiting for Steam to come out with the SMTs so they can create their communities. And then from there it's just going to build. And if you're not with that, then you can't grow along with everybody else. And I know the Ramble is looking into it. That's why they haven't, you know what I mean? I just I think the big communities are going to all get an SMT.
Right. So if say the Ramble, you said the Ramble was looking into it. If the Ramble was to build a community on steemit.com, then the way I was seeing Exile make the post in there, what kind of posts would be inside of the Ramble community?
Well, I can't talk for that. I think everybody's waiting to actually figure out what the heck SMTs are going to look like. If they're going to look like tribes or and act like you know what I mean?
Right.
Or if they're adding more like what you're saying, what you're saying actually bothers me, that you can basically hide a post inside of a front end and that it won't show up on the Steam blockchain so that you have to be part of a community to see all the posts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, that's been my worry since the the I like Steam the way it is for the simple fact that I post all kinds of stuff. And, I don't have to be in a certain community and just post, you know, certain things. And I'm not so that's just my take on it.
No, I
I
love
don't
it.
really
Yeah.
know that much about SMTs, but I think if you because Inner Blocks is a community, even though you are working with other communities, but so are all the other communities. You know what I mean? I mean, just because you're going to have your own SMT doesn't mean that you're not going to talk to Powerhouse Creatives or the Alliance or whoever, you know, however you
Right.
want to divide it up, or the free writers or whatever. But you're still building a community, and I think in order to do that and keep up with what's going on, you're going to have to make, when the SMTs come out, which is whatever, another word for tribes or whatever you want to call it. If you're not with that, you're going to run into being lost in the crowd. Does that, I mean, that's just my off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's one thing. A couple of things to what you said, right? Was maybe when they're not, like, say you're posting inside of a community and you do not have to use a tag. Maybe it will just use the community name as the tag out on steemit.com. So if you want to see, like, say you made a post inside of Interblocks, and then you made that post and maybe it automatically pushed it over to the tag Interblocks, so then that's how you can see it. And I'm not sure they were talking about this is supposed to help with finding posts, so, or you know what I mean, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I'm just kind of like reading. I'm kind of reading as we go here and going all through this, and then the direction to me is still, I mean, it's still kind of fuzzy because they're just rolling this all out and it's brand new. And you're right. I think that people, like, you will get lost in the mix, and I think there's going to be a fury, kind of like when Steam Engine came on, and there's tokens, just tokens, tokens, tokens everywhere, and there was no limit. You know what I mean? So if it costs 3 Steem to create a community, one thing I read that somebody said that if you're in a community and you don't like how the founders are leading the community, you just start your own. So will the communities actually lead to a massive just growth, almost like a cancerous growth? Poof. Like, so, you know, if there's a community growing and it has a token or it's doing whatever inside of Steemit, and then it just starts to take off and people are really enjoying that, will that turn into 50 different communities because you might have 50 people that think they can do it differently or change things, and then it just
well,
does
you're always
then.
going to have 50 people that are, I mean, the more a community grows, you're always going to have people that think they can do it better.
Right, and then will you get lost in the mix there, you know?
Well,
Can
you're,
I just interject to just say something quickly?
This is our friend Janie. Absolutely.
Hello. um, a lot of people have said that Discord would become sort of obsolete when the whole community aspect sort of sets into play, and I personally disagree with that. It was one of the reasons why a little time back, I forget exactly how long, that we changed the sort of focus of the Powerhouse Creatives, in as much as that it embraces and incorporates all the aspects of the blockchain. So essentially all of the communities, all of the tokens, so everything is encompassed within our community. So every person who is involved in every varying niche, and that's why I was giggling earlier on when I said that, because I find it so funny how you guys say niche. Because
Well,
we
you gotta
don't
say it
say
real
niche.
hard, like, you know, we
We
love
we
them
we,
niches.
yeah, we say niche.
I suppose that is fairly
um,
refined.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yep.
but anyway, that's not the point. But essentially, so that there's a place where it's all incorporated, and there are categories and channels for each respective thing. Um, and yes, it does make it a much more expansive place to be in, and when you step into it, it can be somewhat overwhelming. But at the end of the day, I don't agree with the thought process that these communities are just going to wipe everything out and how can I say, just yeah. Uh, I don't know if I'm making sense with the way I've depicted it to you, but I think incorporating everything into one space where it allows everybody to have their own niche works well.
Right. And I did read somebody was comparing it to Discord, talking about the different groups or like a
Yes,
Facebook group.
yes,
So
that's exactly that's what I'm referring to. I caught wind of that somewhere earlier today, saying, "Oh yeah, well this is going to do away with Discord," and I thought, "Nah, I don't think so."
right. So if you look down the side of Discord and you see all the servers that you're a part of, I can see mine here and I see Stacie D's. If you think about all of those that you're a part of there, now imagine each one of those, like you want to make a post. Do you go to make a post in this one and then it only shows up in that one or on one tag, or how do you find it? Or do you have to keep going to the individual communities just to find that one post? Would it limit the creator into one space? You know what I mean?
I,
So
sup-
you can.
I suppose it will to the individual standing as an individual at this present point. But if you were to look at people that are already a part of a community, then it actually stands to benefit them.
Nice. Nice, because that's what we were talking about. The idea of communities is fantastic. Like, and I know just like everything else,
And I'm sorry to interject. I'm referring to communities that are already established, not not newfound communities.
right, right. So what I was going to say is, everything with crypto, SMTs, communities, it's all like the Wild West. There's a lot of gray area that no one really knows how to sort through it. So, there's nothing definitive. We were just kind of thinking like, hey, okay, on this side of it, we know what we already have going, what's all in the works. We were just kind of getting the communities that feel, if people would like to see Interblocks created that community, to be a community on there, to have a real go of it on steemit.com, and then that way we're really pushing on two fronts.
Well, I think you've got the right perspective and the right angle. You've already gathered the people into your space, and it's up to you as to whether you incorporate the additions.
Right, and that's what we're doing, because there's a lot happening. You know what I mean? And it's so funny, like, what do they say, like with the juggling, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of balls in the air, if you will, a lot of juggling happening. So it's about something bigger, like sometimes it's really easy. I think we have a much larger perspective. You know what I mean? I think that since we're pushing out in a different direction, we want to still support, let's say, support the mother platform. You know what I mean? We want to still support Steemit because it's where everything started. And so how can we do both? And is that too much? You know what I mean? Like, is it too much for people or too much to expect from people? You know, so we know that there's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening, and I'm thinking that
Well,
it's
welcome back.
well, you can only when a lot of information is going spilled out everywhere. It's best to not try to talk over each other. um, I think that it'd probably be important for us as Interblocks to just jump in and say we're here. To not get lost in the shuffle, kind of like what Snook was saying. And then let the pieces kind of fall. I think at 3 Steem, it's not overly complicated. It's not too much to do. And then we'll
You've
just
already got your foundation in place, so you can just ride the waves as they come.
yeah, that's kind of how I'm seeing it, because it's like if it's all brand new, then there's going to be a lot of kinks and a lot of things that are
Exactly.
going to have to get
But you've
sorted.
already got a nice collective, and as you obviously know, I sit in the same position where I've got a good community of people together. So whichever way it swings, we're all in it together. And that, no matter which way you want to slice it, is an advantage versus the alternative.
I love that. We are all in it together.
Slicing from left to right, slightly at an upward angle. That's how we're slicing.
Listen, we're not making knives here.
Yeah, so we're really excited about. I mean, there's so much that's happening. We actually spoke with Jason and our developer, and his development team continues to change, like who was working on things and who's going to work on things. And he was talking about bringing on 3 new people here in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully, like, we're talking still about early Q1 to get the front end out. We're not trying to outpace SMTs. We're trying to be ready for it because, hey, what's the sense of having the whole front end with no SMT yet? But having things ready so that when it comes out, we'd still have that good option there because, I think everyone already knows because we talk about this all the time where we want to bring interblocks into the physical world and how can we impact people's lives as much as possible. We met with or we keep meeting. We just had a meeting with our accountant for the second time regarding interblocks last week, and there's a whole lot of gray area when it comes to crypto, but there are some things that are really black and white, and it seems like every day he's emailing me new articles about cryptocurrency.
Right, because they're just trying to keep up with it.
They're trying to keep up. And this last article was how the government is going back to people that are evading taxes by shifting crypto out of the country. So the United States, it may not be as far behind as people think, but I think that it's one of those things where we have to make sure that our I's are crossed and our T's are dotted,
Yes.
right? We need to make sure that everything's sorted out as much as possible. I mean, ignorance is bliss in a lot of cases, but when it comes to this sort of thing, like, we have to be very strategic about it.
You have to
So
be
really
smart.
excited. Yeah, because SMTs, like, when it comes to altcoins and how things are distributed, and then the whole 1099s and the idea of contracting employer and employees. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, at least here in the United States. So we're trying to keep up on that. And so when people talk about SMTs and tokens, I mean, that's all fine and well, you know, when I guess for me, when Steem is like trickling in a little bit, but man.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and so I think that the whole thing, maybe I'm a little cautious. Maybe I'm back here just toeing the water and I'm feeling everything out. Not so much the community stuff, that's fun. But like with the SMTs and the tokens, creating a token. Because when we're creating content and we're getting our tokens and maybe we're cashing it out, a few bucks here, a few bucks there, that's one thing. But then when you go and create millions of tokens and you start adding value and you're exchanging it and you're like, then you're sending that crap through something like a block trades or a Coinbase, and then next thing you know, they're like reporting you to the government, like, hey, this person just cashed out $1 million US worth, like they're on.
I like how she said y'all.
Y'all.
That's so funny.
I reckon we can get over to
South Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like we've seen the way that our government handles making people examples.
Yeah, the making people examples.
I don't want to be an example.
We saw no crap. This is why it pays to be cautious. When we lived in southern Missouri, we actually bred rabbits and we sold rabbits. And you have to specifically classify and sell them in a certain way, and you can't sell them as pets without having a special permit. And there was a family that was 90 miles away from us, and it was a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid was selling it like a hobby. They were breeding rabbits, and they were selling rabbits, and some of their rabbits went to a pet store. And the pet store, they ended up making $4,000 from the pet store, which was more than the $500 limit that the state set for selling them live, right? So if the state came to them, if they had the right paperwork, then they'd be okay, but they didn't. So they said, because you actually sold $3,500 over the limit, we're going to make you an example. And so they ended up suing them, and like the state charged him. It was like a kid, right? And charged the whole family, and it was like ended up being like a $90,000 fine. And then that case went through Missouri, went all the way to Washington, and then with court fees and everything, they ended up having, it was like $1.2 million that they had to pay because he sold $3,500 in rabbits without the right permit. You know what I mean? So it's not so much that like, oh, you can't do something, or oh, people like, you can get away with this and away with that, but it's like, man, when that friggin' hammer falls, that'll ruin your life. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. If the hammer falls on you, it's a pretty big deal. So how much skirting do you want to do?
Right, and that's just it. And that's what I was reading No, it was you needed a permit depending on how you when you sold them. So if you sold them to the public, like in Missouri, you could sell them from your property, and there were no limits, right? So there was no limits to the number you could sell, but there was a difference if you sell them live, sell them processed, or sell them just dead. No one told the rabbits. So anyway, so that's why when Stacie D and I are talking about, actually doing an SMT, that there is attorneys involved, there is accountants involved, just because, we want to make sure that if the hammer falls, it won't be this direction. It'll be hopefully towards someone who's trying to hide their crypto in an island somewhere that they think no one knows. You know what I mean? Or it's like, at some point, like everything's fun and games. Like we can just go crypto to crypto, right? We can use our crypto to buy stuff. Sure. Hey, do you accept Steem? Hey, there's an exchange between you and me, but that's on the blockchain forever. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's only a matter of time before they're like, hey, I saw that you exchanged $150,000 worth of Steem. Huh? Where's your
Huh.
records for that? You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time, and I'm maybe that's me just being a little more cautious, but maybe we should be South African.
I think we got to get.
We could go to South Africa, but I saw the movie Chappie, and it makes me a little nervous.
Ah!
I'm just saying,
You,
like big fighting
you should
robots and
you
things.
you shouldn't trust what you see on the media and on movies, eh?
Well, I don't
Oh,
know, man.
I
You
I
guys
I
clearly
I
have
I
AI
I,
to
tu-
do all the
I
work.
I turn 40 next year. I'm still alive, so can't be that bad. I've been here since I was born, so come on, cut us some slack.
And they're ahead of the crypto
you
game.
you've seen my posts. I mean, it's not that ugly.
Yeah, it's just, and they're ahead of the crypto game
And they're ahead of the crypto
by
game,
just
as
not
in
having
just
it.
not having it.
They're
So
just like, meh.
they're crypto strong over there.
Yeah, because government's that useless.
I love it.
I was busy typing something just so before I mute the mic again, which I'm going to put a screenshot in for those that haven't seen it already. And I know some have, but
It's not going to be rabbits breeding, is it?
no. For those that do use Steam Peak, or those that were considering using it or whatever, but it was pretty cool to see the other day. I think it was either Friday or Monday, that they've added a guest login option.
Oh, I love it.
I was just looking for the. Okay, anyway,
Oh.
I will post it now, and yeah, I just think it's um, even more of a reason to post if you're going to post your links outside of the blockchain, as in on Twitter or wherever else, then it makes even more sense now to use Steam Peak.
Oh, that's so
Right.
true. Maybe
And
we really should. I don't utilize it, but maybe I really should.
but I love
You,
it
you, you
because
don't you don't even have to utilize it. You can just change the extension in the address bar.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
got
Yeah.
wind of this a little while ago when they were first starting to develop this kind of a guest mode. I'm not sure. I haven't explored Steam Peak's guest part of it, but there was talk about being able to vote and things without actually having weight. So sure, they upvote it, but there's no weight because there's no stake, right? So
Yeah.
and there's no returns, and there's like a whole guest mode. And I personally think that guest mode is going to it's going to bring mass
It's
adoption
Yeah.
because
it's
you apply
been
that
long since needed. Yeah.
you bring people from wherever and say you're just down the farmer's market and you say, hey, check us out, interblocks.com, and they can come there and they check it out. Well, then they want to participate and it'll just prompt them to log in with whatever Facebook, Google, and then they can do it. Then they can actually feel like they're doing something, but then maybe they're going to want to post. Maybe they're going to want to do other
It's
things.
such a great gateway.
And then that's, yeah, it's a gateway. And then that's how you get them like, hey, sign up for an account, and then they sign up for your free account, and then people will naturally migrate that way, and then hopefully that will change, and um hopefully that will encourage more people to want to stay, right? It'll encourage the retention, so then that way people aren't having to come here, sign up, wait however long to get an account, and then sort out all their passwords and stuff. Hopefully maybe someone comes and participates and it's a couple of weeks, say they're a guest for like 3 weeks. Well, I think in 3 weeks you're going to get kind of the gist of what's happening. And then when you choose to sign up for an account, I think that hopefully would make people want to say, hey, this is something I do have to keep track of my passwords. And like we were
Right. Like,
talking to a librarian yesterday, right?
yeah, I was trying to, well, I wasn't trying to do anything. She just says something about how she's a writer and she likes to write poetry, and it's kind of how she deals with her life in general. She tries to make humor out of it. And I was like, man, Steam it would definitely be the place for you, or the Steem blockchain. And so that was good. That was going really well. And then we mentioned the passwords, and we're like, it is a little bit more than normal social media. And she's like, I'm definitely gonna check it out. But it's all of those passwords, all of those things that we just are so fluent in now. People definitely need that bit of introduction. And I think it would be cool if there was a way to be like, okay, well, you can sign up now, or however much earn so many points and get a free account by commenting and upvoting. Gamify the guest experience.
Now you
It's not only that. I think also that if I share the content that I create, sometimes I share it on our family, like private chat groups and things like that. None of them can reciprocate,
Yeah.
and that's sort of like it's like a dead end. It's a dead end right there. Like, it's not like Facebook. Like, so with any other social media platform, you can share a link with someone and then they can comment on it, whether they're logged in or not. They can, but Steam lacks that. So I think it's pretty cool that they've added that, because it definitely opens up a whole. I think so. It's Google, Facebook, and I'm not sure what the one on the far right is.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what
I
the
don't use
last
it,
one was.
whatever it is. I don't use it, whatever it is.
Obviously, it's popular enough though, which is weird.
It must be, yeah.
They said it was Git. So
Oh,
Oh,
GitHub.
okay,
yeah,
okay.
so it's going to be exciting, and what's really amazing about this is I've said this so many times before. This is not a race to the finish. It's kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning, where it's not about replacing somebody else's effort or anything. It's not a race to like, oh, the first one to do this is going to win, the first one to do this. It's not like that. It's like the blockchain is big enough that we can all do whatever we want, whenever we want to, right? And then you can market, you can advertise, you can do your own thing. It's not about just like the first in the space. It's about, how much effort in community support you have.
Exactly. Because I think, when you live a life, you try to live a life abundantly, right? Knowing that there's an abundance out there, that you don't have to sweat getting in first, you know? And so just understanding there's enough people already on the Steam blockchain, and then knowing that, like, ultimately our vision is much further out than that. It's everyone that's on Facebook. It's everybody everywhere. Anybody that wants to share, or maybe people that have been way too intimidated to blog before, get a taste for what blogging is like on the blockchain, and it's just so much more comfortable.
And wouldn't that be funny if they get a taste of that, what blogging on a blockchain would be like, and maybe less trolls, maybe you
Mm-hmm.
can be rewarded and it's gamified. And then wouldn't that just be funny if they just squashed Facebook? All of a sudden, people just stopped doing it because they're like, nope, that's silly. And they just left in masses.
Left in masses. Wouldn't that be nuts?
Yeah. I don't think it'd be long before Zuckerberg has something going.
The few people that I managed to get from Facebook onto Steam, as in they weren't like, well, whether or not they were avid Facebook users, I have no idea, but they are bloggers, so they have their independent blog sites. Were very, very quick to say that they were blown away by the interaction and the engagement on their posts. And I mean, nobody is a fool. I think we all understand why the engagement levels are higher, and to say that the rewards are not a part or don't play a part in that would be lying. But the point is that it steers the direction. It steers a general direction, and eventually that becomes habitual, and eventually it becomes a passion. So it's either way, it's a win-win. But it was nice to hear, because I know for myself, I've actually just recently canned my independent site, um, but having pursued with it for so long, to get even 2 comments, even 1 comment on a blog post on an independent site, unless you have like thousands and thousands of followers, is actually it's an exhausting challenge, because you've got to literally punt those posts everywhere, every day, all day, and it gets you nowhere. So it was quite positive to see that sort of feedback from the people that I brought from their independent sites onto Steem, to say like, geez, like, it was overwhelming to see so much like engagement, and that is a huge plus. It's a huge plus that we hold, and that is where the community aspect comes into play.
Oh yeah, and I'm just reading what Jack wrote here. I mean, you're right. Blogging is not the Steem blockchain. The Steem blockchain is huge, and you can do a lot of different things on it. I think that we only speak about blogging because from that point, that's our point of entry. You know, that's where we came into it, writing blogs, doing photography posts, vlogging. So we're coming at it from that angle, as in like this is how we first accessed it. So it's going to be amazing to see what people can do with it. You know what I mean? Because Steem and Steemit are not the same thing. You know, that's super clear. So I think that we were just speaking about really, you know, everybody that uses something like a Facebook. What would an average Facebook user use on the blockchain? What would they utilize the blockchain for?
Right. And I think that might be also the holdup too, is that there isn't a place right now, and the other places that have started, the different apps that did try for, Twitter like post or short posts, didn't go over well because they weren't differentiated between that and a long blog post. So when they started cracking down on quality content, short posts, didn't make the cut because there wasn't a place for those. Because it
Yeah,
all got lumped in together. So you have like a Zapple, and although that's really cool, you know what I mean? When it gets all lumped into every other post, it doesn't look like that person tried at all. Like it doesn't look like it makes sense. So
it's true. I'm with you, Jack. I get you.
yeah, I
Being
understand what
being
you're saying.
mindful that we don't just limit Steem. Yeah. Well, that's 5 o'clock. We're gonna wrap this down. We're gonna stop the recording at least. So, guys, thanks for joining us. We're Stacie D and the Yeti,
Yes, sir.
and
And
we will. When are we gonna see him?
we'll see him next week. And just a quick heads up, anybody listening, next Wednesday is the witness chat. So it's enough heads up, plenty, if you have to write it down on a calendar or put a little, announcement in your phone, whatever it is, a reminder, because a week comes by fast.
Yep.
So awesome, guys.
We'll
Thank you
see you
so
then.
much for coming.